hope my camera doesn't run out of battery while I'm filming. Hey yo, Liz is back in action with my June wrap up. So this month I read 11 books, which for me is quite a few. A couple hits and a couple misses, well, mostly hits. The first book that I read in June was the biggest disappointment in the month, and that was The Queen's Assassin by Melissa De La Cruz. I remember when I was younger, and I think she's the same author as the Blue Bloods, series, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll like it. I didn't like it. So the premise is there's a kingdom that once had magic, but it doesn't really have magic anymore, and there is an assassin bound to the queen, to kind of bring magic back into the world. And the way that it's set up, you think that you know something that the main character doesn't know, and it's really obvious even though they don't exactly tell you. But then it turns out that she knew the entire time, and it's just not a fun reveal. The romance isn't fun at all. It's completely forced. So I think I gave this maybe 2 stars on Goodreads. I might bring it down to 1. I read An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. Originally, I didn't hear wonderful things about this book. I had heard book reviewers say that the plot was kind of lame and that it didn't have enough action. I really liked the characters, and I thought that their romance, was kind of cute, and that the lead guy, well, I mean, he's a fairy, a fae. What is the correct terminology here? I thought that he was really cool and not as stuffy as some fae love interests that I've seen in books. So I had a really good time with this because I enjoyed the protagonist, and it was a standalone fantasy book, which is so refreshing. And I don't know if you've seen my July TBR, but I am reading A Sorcery of Thorns by the same author. I read The Wicked Saints and Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. The premise is like a holy war between people who think that magic only comes from the gods and people who use blood magic for their own, needs. And so there's a war clashing between these two sides, and the main character and the people she befriends go, let's go kill the king. And so that kind of plot ensues. It was a bit darker than other books that I've read with the same kind of premise. The storylines, like how they were told, I feel like that if it just had the main female character, telling the story, it would have been more cohesive. I don't think that the other perspective that we get really brought much extra to the table. And in the second book, that second narrator gets really disjointed, and I guess that's the point, but to me as the reader, it made it really difficult to get through those chapters and to get through the book as fast as I wanted to. So I don't remember what I gave these, star-wise. I don't usually think too hard about it. I'm not sure if I'd completely recommend them. If you are kind of into things that feel a little Catholic at times, I pick it up. Let's see. I reread Six of Crows, and it's actually the first book that I've tabbed. ASMR. So I'm kind of proud about that. This is my signed edition from Leigh Bardugo, so I'm hesitant to write in it, but I do have another copy of this book that maybe I'll do something similar and tab it and write in it and think about, characters and themes. I read A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. Pretty cover, pretty cover. I said I was going to read this in July, but I actually couldn't wait any longer, and I finished it in June. I really enjoyed Karina and Malik. That's probably how you say it. Or Malik. Malik? I liked them both, and I liked how their storylines intersected at points, but they're each dealing with their individual challenges. So I really enjoyed that. Sometimes I found Malik's section a little harder to get through than Karina's. I think because I was so wrapped up in the court intrigue that follows Karina that I was like, okay, Can we go back to her? Can we go back to her? But I really liked how the plot panned out, and you know, I loved revving up to the climax and the big reveal of this and that. And so I think that when I felt like I was trudging through certain parts, the payoff was just so good. And this is actually a series that I'm looking forward to continuing. I have been so burnt out on series, and I don't know, do you feel like that too? Do you feel like there's too many series going on that you can't find a good standalone book and enjoy it? You always have to be waiting for the next book in a series. I get tired of that. But with this book, I am so ready. I'm ready to explore the world even further. So this was a great read. I gave it 5 out of 5 for sure. Loved it. Another reread was Sawkill Girls, and I'm actually thinking about doing like a video essay on just the themes and the motifs. So this book follows 3 girls who are on a small island where girls go missing all of the time, and there is a creature there that feeds on young women. And it's really cool to see these 3 women come together through their own, you know, lives and stories, and how they face this monster, how they face their fellow mankind. And it's really cool because there are some pages that are from the island's perspective. It's called The Rock. And I liked thinking about like a place loving people, a place caring for the people who live there. I think that's a really cool concept, and I really enjoyed this book. This was a reread. I read it last summer. I wrote in this copy. I feel so weird about it. I've only really written in books I was reading for like academic purposes. So it was a really weird writing in a book, but I enjoyed it. I liked all of the notes that I took, and I hope to tab it. I hope to maybe write a script for a video essay, because I really do want to talk about this book. It has a female-female romance. It has a character who is asexual, and I want to discuss how, you know, both of those are handled maybe. So I really liked it. This is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. I read These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. It was a fun, quick little read. It takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, present day. Oh my god, Salem is in Massachusetts, right? I'm gonna feel really, really dumb if it isn't. But it centers around a witch, her ex-girlfriend, yes, female-female romance, and her new crush, all against the backdrop of, you know, the town not being as safe as she thought it was. And so, it was an interesting little read. It was hard to get through at times. I wasn't expecting it to be a young adult book. I was thinking it was going to be more of like new adult or something. But I got through it, and it was a pretty good read. I have the sequel marked as want to read. We'll see how many books I get through this summer. It's not really a priority for me. But it was a solid book. If you're looking for witchiness, if you're looking for young adult, if you're looking for female-female romance, check it out. I think it was a fun read. It was not that long, so, you know, check it out. I also read The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I think everyone and their mother has been reading this book. I was blown away by how quiet and contemplative and, you know, just how emotionally moving, is that too trite? This book was. I totally was not expecting any kind of trans rep going into this. I was amazed that, you know, there was a trans character handled pretty well, in my opinion. I'm not transgender myself, but, you know, based on other books that I've read that feature transgender individuals, I felt like this book handled it really well, that it focused on the romance between those 2 characters and the body image of that person, and not so much like receiving hate for being transgender. They did tackle some, you know, important things that transgender people go through, but I feel like that was just more of a that's a part of life kind of thing. And so it was really cool to see that. But the twin sisters who are the driving force of this novel, it was amazing to see how their lives were fulfilling in this way, but unfulfilling in that. And I thought it was really interesting to see how Stella, the girl who chooses to cross over into being Wyatt, how her life pans out, and the secrets she carries and the anxiety that it gives her, and how she's not able to connect as deeply with others as she'd like. We all make decisions, and whether or not it's the right decision, I think, is very personal. There's always people who are left to deal with the after effects of some decisions, but in the end, like, your life and your decisions are your own, and you can't guarantee that your choice will pan out for you. And I think that it was really interesting to see, these two women go through their lives, and it was really cool that it took place over, a couple generations, and you got to see the story of this family. And I had such a book hangover after finishing this one. I said, oh my god, what do I read next? So if you haven't picked it up yet, The Vanishing Half, really good book. I should check my list, because, I also read, and hopefully I'll put it right here, I read The Hate U Give, which, I mean, if you don't know what that book is about, it's about a young black girl named Star, who is with her friend, her male black friend, when he is shot and killed by a police officer. And the story follows her through, her life after the event. And, it is such it's such a sensitive topic for, many people. For people of color, especially black people, that's their daily lives, that they have to think about how they act and how they dress and how they address people. And, as someone who has light skin, I don't have these worries, and I, have no context on a personal level for what Star and her family go through. And it does touch on the political and judicial after effects of the shooting, but it mainly focuses on her as an individual in her community and at her school, her as a member of her family and her community. So I really enjoyed, seeing her grow and change throughout the book, and I think it was a great book. I'm really excited to check out what else Angie Thomas has written. I might read On the Come Up. I think I have that marked on my to be read. So, really liked The Hate U Give. The last book I read, will I edit this part out, is the question. I read Beach Read. Okay, so if you give me a book called Beach Read, I want them to be on the beach. I want it to be lighthearted on the beach. But maybe I didn't read the synopsis good enough. But it was heavy. It dealt with grief. It dealt with abandonment and, not being an imposter syndrome, not being good enough. That's not what I was expecting going into something titled Beach Read. I was thinking summer vibes, and I don't know what I was expecting from this book, but it's not exactly what I got. So that really threw me for a loop. The main character, she inherits a lakeside house from her father, who cheated on her mother more than once, and so she's having to go through his things and live in this house because she's flat broke and out of options, and she ends up living next door to her college rival. And so their romance was really cool, and that's what I read in June. I'm hoping maybe not so many books in July, but I don't even remember. I'm gonna have to watch my own TBR because I was dumb and didn't write down what I'm reading in July. Yay. So what was your favorite read in June? I think mine was The Vanishing Half. So what was your favorite read of June? Like, comment, and subscribe if you're here watching my video. That'd be cool of you. Alright,